Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast to help you and your family cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Steve Creasy, and joining me today is our co-host from Los Angeles, Chris Bright. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing good, Steve. How about you?
Not too bad. The summer is here. I cannot believe that it's gone by so quickly.
I know, a summer here, a summer probably spending a little bit more time inside than normal.
Right.
Perfect excuse to listen to a podcast.
Exactly. And I think we got a fun one today. Well, I know we've got a fun episode today because we're going to talk about something a little bit different, something hidden.
Something hidden and oftentimes shaped like our most famous favorite mouse.
Exactly. So I'd like to welcome to the podcast today. He's an author. He's an app developer. Steve Barrett. How are you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing great. It's good to be on your podcast.
Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. You have a very interesting set of books out, which I found at Walt Disney World a couple years ago, and then come to find out that you've done one for Disney Cruise Line as well. I wonder if you would kind of tell our audience a little bit about your books.
I fell in love with Disney a long time ago. It was my first trip to Disney World that just sort of sparked my enduring interest of all things Disney. I wrote a guidebook first. It was called The Hassle-Free Walt Disney World Vacation. It was published in 2001. October of 2001. Not a very good time to publish books, right after 9/11, but I found a publisher and we published it. And with that book, I updated it every year for 10 years and then started concentrating more on the Hidden Mickey's books. My publisher had asked me in the early years if there were any other books that I could put together about Disney, because they were a travel publisher. They're not in business anymore, but I told my publisher, yes, I've been collecting this file of Hidden Mickeys that I discovered through the old Disney magazine, and different websites would talk about Hidden Mickeys. So I started researching Hidden Mickeys at Disney World, and the first Disney World book came out in 2003, Walt Disney World Hidden Mickeys. It's now into its 9th edition. And the Disneyland Hidden Mickey's book came out 2 years later, and the cruise ship Hidden Mickey's book came out in 2007. And I'm on my 4th edition of the cruise ship Hidden Mickey's book. So that's how I got started. I really enjoy writing these books and updating them. Up to now, it's been every other year because, as maybe you've figured out, and with your searches, that Hidden Mickey's, the game of Hidden Mickey's is constantly changing. For example, at Disney World, there's probably on the order of 1 or 2 new good Hidden Mickeys every month that Disney just puts in place and waits for us to find them. And so the nice thing about the cruise ships, they don't change as often. The Hidden Mickeys that are in place tend to stay around longer, and so the books don't need to be updated quite as often. But the Hidden Mickey's game is constantly evolving. Disney has bought into this game. They weren't into this game initially. In the early years, Disney wouldn't talk about Hidden Mickeys. That was absolutely not a priority for them, and they didn't want it. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I keep stepping on you. And I guess I just have the question: what exactly? We all have seen Hidden Mickeys, all of us that have gone to the parks and on the cruise ship and everything else. But what was the beginning of the Hidden Mickeys? When did it start, and what's kind of the background of it?
The story that makes most sense to me, and that some of the people I follow and admire about Disney history, the story I like the best, and I think is true, is that when Epcot was being built in the late 70s and early 80s, Disney management did not want Disney characters in Epcot because Walt Disney had envisioned Epcot as a more adult park. At that time, Disney World only had the Magic Kingdom as a park, and Epcot was the second park they were building. So they wanted to keep the characters in the Magic Kingdom and not have them appear in Epcot. Well, the Imagineers and artists that were building the pavilions and World Showcase at Epcot started sort of an inside game. They would put images of Mickey, hide him in the murals, in the etched in the cement, on the rides, and this became sort of an inside thing, and it was their way of bringing the characters to Epcot. Right? They were hiding them so it wouldn't upset management. And then in the late '80s is where guests and cast members started saying, "Hey, there's a bunch of these hidden images around. We'll start telling folks about them." And the term Hidden Mickey came about in about 1989, 1990, describing those images, which is usually a three-circle image, the head and ears of Mickey. But there are certainly more elaborate images of Mickey. There are wonderful full-body images, three-quarter profiles, side profiles of Mickey's head, hidden Minnies started popping up, hidden Goofies, hidden Donalds. Disney finally embraced this. And again, at first they didn't want guests looking for hidden Mickeys. For example, when Disney's Animal Kingdom opened in '98, and then Everest opened at some point later, the queue of Expedition Everest is to make you feel like you're in the Himalayas. I mean, it's a very elaborate queue that you can enjoy, the details, which Disney is famous for. Well, the Imagineers did not want guests looking for hidden Mickeys in the queue of Expedition Everest. They wanted them immersed in the Himalayas. But guess what? There's a bunch of good hidden Mickeys in the queue of Expedition Everest. So regardless of what Disney felt and Disney management, artists and the painters and the people, the rock builders and all, would just slip in these hidden Mickey images just as fun. And finally, Disney came out and said, all right, guests want this. It's a fun game. It brings people to the parks, especially veterans who want something else to do. And I saw that come out mainly when the Magic Kingdom opened the new Fantasyland a few years ago. I was in a room of journalists when Disney was promoting the opening of the new Fantasyland, and the president of Disney was giving a speech, giving a talk with a PowerPoint slideshow, and she threw up this hidden Mickey from the queue of the Little Mermaid ride. She said, "And this is our great new hidden Mickey." And the journalists in the room just started clapping. It's like, well, yeah, because it's great. It's a great hidden Mickey. So I knew then that hidden Mickeys had arrived, and Disney's no longer, sweeping them under the rug. So it's become even a more fun game. The Imagineers are really into it. It's part of their planning sessions, like when they renovated the Disney Wonder and Magic. They put in some fantastic new hidden Mickeys, and so the Imagineers plan that, and they've told me it's part of their. It comes up in their planning sessions as a topic. It's probably not on the agenda, but they do talk about it. And often the Imagineer will, while the renovation is happening or while the attraction is being built, they will actually instruct an artist, hey, why don't you put a little hidden Mickey in this mural right here? Think of something creative, So I think that's pretty much the way it works now.
Well, I don't think I realized that they purposefully update even like established parts of the park. I guess I sort of assumed that the only new hidden Mickeys to enter Disney World would be when they open a new ride or they open a new restaurant or a new space in the park. But it sounds like what you're saying is sometimes they actually just add a hidden Mickey where there wasn't a hidden Mickey before, and then fans can sort of like be surprised to find that suddenly there. Is that how it works?
Yes, that's a very good question. I'll give you a good example. In Epcot's Mexico Pavilion, the Grand Fiesta Tour ride, the boat ride. I don't know when this Hidden Mickey was placed, probably a couple of years ago, but I had a flood of people started writing me about this Hidden Mickey. They had added to the last room of the ride where the fireworks are going off on the ceiling and the three caballeros are serenading you on the left side of the boat, and you're floating past a cityscape of buildings of a big city in Mexico, and they plopped a shadow of Mickey standing, a full body silhouette of Mickey in one of the windows of the high rise buildings in the middle of that mural of the cityscape. That's something that they do, and because even the old attractions get maintenance periodically, and they will decide to they'll decide to put in a new Hidden Mickey, and so it does, and I think it's just to make the game continually exciting, and guests can continue to look for Hidden Mickeys because you can be assured that new ones will appear, even in older attractions. But certainly, as you mentioned, Chris, with new attractions and refurbishments, like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway had opened just before the pandemic in Disney's Hollywood Studios, and absolutely, there's some really good Hidden Mickeys in that ride.
Well, and that ride uses a lot of projection technology. So let me ask you this: does it count as a hidden Mickey if it's projected, or do you only count hidden Mickeys that are like physically in a space?
Well, if the projected image is reliable and continuous, that's the way I write the book, is I include images that the guest can find reliably, consistently, with a good description. And so, those would count if it's not an image that goes away.
That's fascinating. So I used to work at Disneyland. That was my first job out of high school.
Oh.
And when you work in the theme parks, you have to go through something called Traditions, which is sort of like Disney University, where they teach you everything they can. And part of that, they take you on a tour of the park, and they talk about it more so from a history standpoint, and they give you sort of like a behind-the-scenes tour. And at the time, there was this, they said, we're going to take you and show you the only full-size hidden Mickey that exists in Disneyland. And what they meant by that is like head to toe, it's a Mickey Mouse, but it's hidden. And I think that's what you're describing over in the Mexico Pavilion, right? That it's like a silhouette of Mickey. Where they took us was this little, it must be like a maintenance building or something on the Rivers of America next to where the dock is. And on there is a billboard of the Mark Twain riverboat. And
oh, yes.
And standing on the deck of it was a hidden Mickey. And at the time, I remember just obsessing over that and thinking like, oh my gosh, he could be anywhere. And this is so cool. And also feeling really cool that I knew the only full-size hidden Mickey or whatever. But now that I hear there's one in the Mexico Pavilion, I feel like I'm way behind on the times, and I need to get your books and start doing my scouting throughout the theme parks when they reopen.
You should, and it's a fun game. I have a website, hiddenmickeyguy.com, and people write me. Usually once or twice a day, I'll get emails of submitted Hidden Mickey sightings from just people that want to write me at the website. Now, during the pandemic, all that slowed down a bit because the parks have been closed. But people write me. I get probably 3 or 4 decent submissions a week of, wow, I didn't know, a new Hidden Mickey or a new hidden image that could be. There are marginal images that we debate about. I mean, there's circles everywhere in Disney detail with cannonballs and pumpkins and grapes and whatnot. But which three circles would make a hidden Mickey? We debate that quite often, and sometimes it's not clear if an image is accidental or purposeful. I really like the purposeful images. I mean, even in a set of grapes on a vine in a mural, sometimes the artist will make a three-circle or a classic hidden Mickey in those grapes, and when you see it, it's obvious. Oh yeah, I mean that grape is bigger, it's a larger head, and he's got two ears. That happens in bubbles quite a bit too. They'll make bubble images that are obviously you get the gestalt feeling that it's purposeful and not accidental. So I hope the game goes on for longer and longer. And I don't know when the two new ships are coming out for the Disney Cruise Line, but I can almost guarantee there'll be hidden Mickeys on those ships.
I love the excitement that you guys have in that, because I think we all feel that same way. I know my kids do whether we're on the ships or in the parks or even in the hotel rooms when they find a hidden Mickey like that. Do you remember when you found your first one and what it was?
I remember, my first kind of eureka moment. And again, back in the early years, I was in the early 90s. Websites were fairly basic and archaic back then. There wasn't a lot of graphics with websites, and the first Hidden Mickey's website that I'm aware of in the early 90s was put up by two college students at Stetson University, which is north of Orlando, and they started posting Hidden Mickey's descriptions that they would get from the cast members, and they would go out to the parks, Disney World, and look for them, and they would. So I had my first file of Hidden Mickeys from their website, and I started, collecting the file, building a file, and checking out, going to the parks all the time. I would go to Disneyland twice a year, go on the cruise ships when I could, and building this book with my publisher. So I never tired of it. And again, I started this in probably the year 2000 or 1999. I think about it every day. So it's just a fun sport or fun game. And but the first image that had my eureka moment was in the Magic Kingdom. There was a ride at the time, Snow White's Scary Adventures. It's no longer in the Magic Kingdom. But on the mural at the loading dock was Snow White is standing by the dwarf's cottage, and there's a chimney on the cottage, and there's three stones, gray stones, set in the chimney that made a great three-circle Hidden Mickey. And I remember looking at it saying, "Oh my gosh, that is so purposeful! I love it." And I was hooked after that. Just And again, we debate marginal images. And I always check them out, especially when a child sends me an image. Children are actually pretty good at spotting hidden Mickeys, and sometimes they'll send me really wonderful images, especially in the children are of course closer to the ground, and I remember this hidden Mickey etched in cement behind Test Track in Epcot. It's an etched hidden Mickey in the cement. Very subtle, and the person that discovered it was a 7-year-old girl walking with her dad, and she showed her dad, that looks like Mickey. And Dad says, "My gosh, it certainly is." So he took a photo and sent it to me, and that's been one of my favorite Hidden Mickeys for years.
Can I ask you a couple of rapid fire Hidden Mickey questions?
Sure.
Okay. What is the biggest Hidden Mickey, size-wise?
That's a good question. Probably the solar panels Hidden Mickey near the Yacht Club in Walt Disney World. And you can only see it from the air or from Google Earth. But it's huge. It's a huge solar farm. But these solar panels are grouped to make a perfect three-circle classic Mickey with head and ears. That's the largest one that I'm aware of. Although I'll tell you what, an astronomer sent me a photo of Mercury, and there were 3 craters that looked like. So that may be the largest in the universe that we know of so far.
Well, I guess we have to say Disney sanctioned. Maybe Disney did send up something to make Mickey-shaped craters. Okay, my next question would be then what's the smallest hidden Mickey you know of?
I discovered it probably a year and a half ago when one fellow, a young man, wrote me about this hidden Mickey, and I had a devil of a time finding it. And it's in Disney's Hollywood Studios, and it's along Hollywood Boulevard, and it's on a column, outside column of Mickey's Hollywood store, and it's 3 tiny paint spots that they're so tiny you really have to put your face right up to it to even see it. So that's the smallest one I know about, but it's a perfect 3-circle image. And I don't know if that was accidental or not. It seemed to me that the circles are so perfect that I wouldn't put it past the painter who put those paint spots all over the column to do that on purpose. So that's the smallest one I know about. There's one pretty close, it's a little bit larger than that at the Disney's Animal Kingdom and Conservation Station on a fly on one of the murals in the rainforest section. But a lot of those hidden Mickeys in Conservation Station, unfortunately, we can't access anymore because they've made an animation event for guests that they block it off. But
right.
That's another really tiny one, is the tiny hidden Mickey on the back of a fly on a mural and in the rainforest section.
Okay, I know that this question is probably like asking you which kid is your favorite, but which hidden Mickey is your most favorite one that you've found?
I have to say, because of its uniqueness, the once-a-year hidden Mickey in the queue of the Little Mermaid ride in the Magic Kingdom, Walt Disney World, the Imagineers had to figure out where the sun would be at noon on November 18th, which is Mickey's birthday, and they made holes in the ceiling of the cave part of the queue so the sun would shine through those circles and make a formed of light hidden Mickey on the inside wall of the queue, and it would shine. And it's been there every year since the new Fantasyland opened. It hasn't been clouded over. There's the word about being cloudy and such, but it's a marvelous, complicated way. The research they had to do to figure out to make this hidden Mickey happen, on Mickey's birthday. Now, people tell me, people smarter than me, that, well, the universe doesn't stay the same, so eventually that's going to get distorted and disappear. And it might, but, it's been there at noon on November 18th every year, and it stays in place for a few minutes before, the sun moves on. So that's the most amazing one, and I just appreciate the work, the Imagineers, and the research they did to make it happen.
Okay, now I can be honest and say I haven't noticed a single hidden Mickey in Galaxy's Edge, but I assume they're there, and I was wondering, have you found any cool hidden Mickeys in Galaxy's Edge, and where are those?
They're different in most respects. They're different between Disneyland and Hollywood Studios, but there's one that's present in both lands. In the Millennium Falcon, Smuggler's Run, when you're walking through the queue, and just before you get into the cockpit, you're in the loading room before you are assigned seats in the cockpit. There's a monitor to your right, and on the far side of the monitor, you have to look back as you're walking into the cockpit. There's 3 metal rings that make a hidden Mickey, and it's clearly purposeful. It was designed beautifully, and it's present in both parks. So that's a good one in Galaxy's Edge. Now, the fantastic one that just blew me away is the hidden Millennium Falcon. in Disney's Hollywood Studios, and a cast member told me about it. If you remember the way the Millennium Falcon looks, it's a big ship, and the cockpit is actually on one side. It's on, I guess, the starboard side, the right side, and it has a black band coming down over the cockpit, and underneath that band there was a metal shelf, and the Imagineers put a tiny model of the Millennium Falcon. They glued it up there.
Huh.
And and you can see it now. You can't, as of the closing of the parks, you couldn't get up close to it, the Millennium Falcon. There was a fence around it, but you could see this tiny Millennium Falcon model, that they had stuck up there. And Disney hides other images, by the way. That's a good example. They hide other hidden characters. I mean, another one of my eureka moments was finding the hidden Jafar at Disney's Animal Kingdom. And I'd heard about it for several years, but I just couldn't find it. And the cast members I would ask really didn't know where it was. And so I began to wonder if it was a myth. And I was walking along the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail over the suspension bridge after the gorilla exhibit. There was a cast member standing there, and we were alone on the bridge. This was late in the afternoon, pretty close to closing of the Animal Kingdom, and I was really getting frustrated. I'd been all over the park looking for Jafar, and I said, I'm going to give up on this. And so I turned around to talk with her, and my gosh, I saw the Jafar behind her, and I just froze, and my eyes got big like saucers. And she said, "Oh, you looking for the hidden Jafar?" Yeah, look, that's where he is. And it's this huge 30-foot rock. It's a huge rock, and the side of the rock is sculpted to be Jafar's silhouette, and it's just a fantastic, fantastic image that the rock sculptors did. And that I almost fell over when I saw him, because it just hits you between the eyes. And sometimes hidden Mickeys do that too. I mean, you'll be looking maybe right at an image and you won't see it until you get perspective or whatever it is. The effect, sometimes it's almost like a hologram effect, like the hidden Mickey in the Garden Grill restaurant in the Land Pavilion at Epcot. That Mickey image is hidden behind the fern, and it took my wife a year before she could even see it. So, and she finally saw it when I took a good photo of it and showed her on my computer and outlined it for her. She said, "Oh yeah, I see it now." So the creators of hidden Mickeys can do brilliant things with subtle images.
You're making me think, have you ever been to Aulani before?
Never been.
So they have a lazy river there, and they've done the exact same thing with the rock work there, where I don't know how many, we're DVC members, so we've been there quite a few times at Aulani, and my parents live over there, which is the main reason why we've been over there. But I don't know how many times we went around that lazy river before I finally looked at the rock work that they built around it. And just as you're talking about with Jafar, they have whales and crabs and fish. Wow. And once you see them, you can't not see them. But
right.
So I know exactly what you're talking about with Jafar.
Wonderful effect. Yeah.
Oh, I kind of want to circle back with the Mickey's birthday, November 18th, where it appears like that. It kind of reminds me of Raiders of the Lost Ark when he's looking for the location of the Ark. Is there a Holy Grail hidden Mickey that you are still looking for, or one that maybe a lot of people in the community are looking for? Is there one that maybe is a myth that may or may not be there that you can talk about?
Well, that's I've never been asked that question. That's a very interesting question. I'll have to ponder that one. Well, there are definitely hidden Mickeys that I'm unable to find. For example, on fast rides, on Test Track, for example, there are some hidden Mickeys on the ride that you have to be looking at the split second that you're passing it in order to see it. And there's one hidden Mickey made of purple circles, small purple circles on the left of your car. It appears right before you shoot out onto the outside track and, get up to 65 miles an hour. But you're going so fast, I've never been able to see it, never been able to spot it. So, yeah, there are some hidden Mickeys and hidden images that cast members tell me about. There's another one in the ride Dinosaur at Disney's Animal Kingdom. The cast members say, well, there's a hidden Mickey on the forehead of the first Carnotaur that comes out at you in your car from the left. It comes out from the left of the car, as if he's going to bite you, and roaring. But it's just too dark to see. And I've tried so many times to see that hidden Mickey, and I know it's there because cast members say, well, when the ride's down, or when before we open and we're walking through and it's lit up, we can see it. But so that's what comes to mind as far as frustrating hidden Mickeys that I've been unable to spot. And I only put in the book what's fair for people that would be able to spot an image. Otherwise, it would just be frustrating.
That makes sense. I feel like you also opened up my mind to the not hidden Mickeys, but hidden things that Disney does, because they know that it's like going the extra mile and giving people some extra whimsy. Yes. I guess is a good word.
Yes, that's a good way to describe it.
So like one tradition that Disney has had for a long time is whenever they close an attraction and replace it, they like to leave nods to the attraction that used to be on that land or that used to be in that building before they replaced it. So like the Winnie the Pooh ride at Disneyland replaced the Country Bear Jamboree, and the busts of the characters from that are hidden in the Winnie the Pooh ride, but you have to look backwards while you're riding it to be able to see them, things like that. And I think that that's just like really cool because it helps there to be a history. Also, a lot of people praise Indiana Jones for having like a really well-themed, long, immersive line, right? Because you go through all those caves and the temple and all of that. But the reason why they built the line the way that they did is because there was no land inside the berm of Disneyland for them to build the Indiana Jones ride. And so they needed to basically use what was once the parking lot to build the show building for Indiana Jones. And so they built the Indiana Jones ride in what was the Eeyore section of the parking lot. So if you're in line, once you pass through the berm and what is now the Eeyore section of the parking lot, if a cast member shines their light up in a certain place, you can see very clearly an Eeyore that has been hidden in there to sort of pay homage to the location. And I think there's probably countless things like that. You can bet if the land or the building that this ride is in is replacing something, that there is a nod to the attraction that was there before. And I think that that's so cool and sort of it's not exactly hidden Mickeys, but it is a way for Disney to say, we care about our history. We care about what has come before us. And even though, as Walt would have wanted, the park is always evolving and changing, it doesn't mean that we won't remember the like really important and nostalgic things from the past. So I'm all for
well said
conversation.
Yes, well said. And there are a number of examples of like what you brought up of giving nod to previous attractions. Yeah. For example, at the Haunted Mansion in the Magic Kingdom, Walt Disney World, there's a pet cemetery outside the exit, and there's a statue of Mr. Toad in the cemetery as one of the tombstones. And so it's kind of a nod to, the death of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride at the Magic Kingdom. They brought him over and put him in the pet cemetery.
Right. It's so cool.
Well, to that end, have you heard of, I don't mean to circle back to Aulani, Is that a place do you think you'll ever go? Because out there, have you heard of have you heard of the Menehune?
Yes, yes. People have sent me images of that's their version of the classic Hidden Mickey, 3-circle Hidden Mickey. Is that what I think that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, the Menehune are they're like little people that are kind of mischievous, but also this kind of spirits of the Hawaiian people, and they've got them hidden throughout the resort. And I think there's supposed to be about 300 of them.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, wow. If you can find them all, but I think that your love of hidden Mickeys, I think this would be right up your alley to try and find some of those around the resort.
Oh, that's definitely on my bucket list to get to Aulani for sure.
Joe Rohde designed Aulani, right?
Right.
And Joe Rohde also did the Animal Kingdom and Pandora, the world of Avatar, as well as Lighthouse Point, which is coming to Disney Cruise Line. And if you think about the legacy of all those things that I just listed, the Aulani with all the Hawaiian cultural Menehune hidden everywhere, or Animal Kingdom with the Tree of Life, which is essentially the ultimate hidden hidden object. And then you think about all of the creativity that went into Pandora and Avatar. I'm so excited to see what gems we find hidden in Lighthouse Point, because he just has a real legacy of using that whimsy and that hidden flair to sort of make you discover something new literally every time you go and visit a section of the park or a location that he touched.
Yeah, I agree. And, his work and creativity and legacy are rubbing off on all the Imagineers. So it's a wonderful thing what Disney does. And I can't wait for it all to open up again. But
well, as we kind of finish our discussion up today, Steve, I really love your books, the fact that you make it an adventure for people too. And I want to encourage everybody, all our listeners, to go out and take a look and pick up a copy of one of your books, because you don't just tell people where they are, but it's kind of an adventure through the park or through the ship to find them. And it's kind of up to you to find them once you get to those different spots, isn't it?
Right. And the way the books are organized is the way I could work out an efficient way to look for them. In other words, if you want to find all the hidden Mickeys in the Magic Kingdom, which would be hard to do in one day, the only chance you would have is to have an efficient sort of hidden Mickey touring plan. And that's kind of the way the books are organized. In the case of the cruise ships, it's the same way. I start on the upper deck and work down each deck, traversing each deck and looking for the hidden Mickeys. So it's an efficient way to do it. And you could definitely find the hidden Mickeys in a day on one of the cruise ships. That's definitely possible.
So as we kind of finish up then, how can our listeners get in touch with you, Steve, if they find a hidden Mickey, that gem that they found that maybe nobody else has seen? How can they get in touch with you? And then where can they find your books?
What I check constantly, and I get emails from my website, if anybody submits a hidden Mickey to me, I respond to every one of those. Now, so on my website, hiddenmickeyguy.com, hit the submit button at the top, and it will take you to a page where you can write a description. And ideally, if you have a photo or more, one or more photos, that definitely helps a lot. But a good description is fine without a photo, if that's all you have. And just submit it to me, and I go check it out. And sometimes have people to vote on more marginal images. So that's how to contact me is through my website. My books are distributed through the National Book Network, and so they're in bookstores, brick and mortar bookstores, which those still exist. Although the publishing world may look a little different now after the pandemic. But you can find them in bookstores and on Amazon. My books are there, easy to access. I have an agreement with Attractions Magazine, Orlando Attractions Magazine. I sell my books in their store, in the Attractions Magazine store, and there's a way to, sign up for an autograph copy if you want me to autograph a book to send to you. We can do that through the Attractions Magazine store. So those are the ways to get it. And my apps are in the Apple iTunes store, and I have one for Disneyland and Disney World that were just updated within the last 6 months. And they're beautiful apps. I think my app guys did a bang-up job with the apps.
Well, I know that for our family, we've really enjoyed our times in the park, looking for hidden Mickeys as we're kind of wandering around. And for anybody out there that's like, if you have younger kids, I think it's just a great thing to do as well. Kind of, sometimes when the parks are busy or the lines are long, it's a great kind of distraction and a good distraction for them and a game to play to try and find those. So I really want to thank you for coming on our show today, Steve. I really appreciate it.
By the way, this is a lot of fun for me. And by the way, a good way to discover new hidden Mickeys is to talk to cast members. Just ask them, and 9 times out of 10, they won't know of a new one, but there's that 1 out of 10 they'll say, "Oh yeah, there's a new one over here." So that's a good way to find new ones. So yeah, I appreciate you having me on your podcast. This was a lot of fun.
Well, appreciate it as well, and I'll make sure that I put all the information in our show notes. And I guess I just encourage all of us to go out there and keep exploring and find those different hidden Mickeys, right, Chris?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and by the way, we're on, my wife and I, my wife's the social media manager for Hidden Mickeys, but we're on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook. And I put up videos on Instagram 3 or 4 times a week. If you want to see what a hidden Mickey is, and the nice thing about a video is I give you the surroundings and kind of zoom in on it, and so it's a fairly good way to learn about hidden Mickeys and to get an idea of what they look like on Instagram. Hidden Mickey Guy on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Steve.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your books, appreciate the time that you spent compiling all of this for us, and I look forward to the next one you find.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. All the best, Steve. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Steve.
Bye-bye, Chris and Steve.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Steve for coming on and sharing his passion all about Hidden Mickeys. Remember, you can find him at hiddenmickeyguy.com, also Hidden Mickey Guy on Facebook and Instagram as well. And from that website, you'll be able to connect with him, share your Hidden Mickeys with him. You find out what he's found lately, and also find out links to all his books. I'll also have that in the show notes below for you as well. Well, I hope you're enjoying these different podcasts that we've been bringing you the last couple weeks and months as these ships aren't sailing. Next week, for the next 2 weeks, we're going to turn our focus to Alaska. We had hoped to bring these 2 episodes to you a little bit sooner, but as the Alaska sailings got canceled, it just didn't seem, with all the uncertainty around it, just didn't seem like the time to bring it out. So we are going to turn our focus to Alaska for those of you who are thinking about booking Alaska in the future or may have cruises booked next year to head on the beautiful Disney Wonder up into Alaska. And then we've got a special Christmas in July episode as well as we turn into July. So if you would like to get a hold of us here at the DCL Podcast, you can reach out to me, Steve, at DCLpodcast.com. If you'd like to come on and share your experiences with Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney, we'd love to have you. Go ahead and send me an email, and we'll get you all set up with the show. Also, if you'd like to support our show, you can do so via our Patreon program. We are a listener-supported podcast, so we do appreciate all of our Patreon supporters, and you get a little bit extra content every month. And we just started a new series called Coffee at the Cove, which is going to first debut with our Patreons, and eventually it's going to come on the regular feed as well. So if you are interested in supporting the show, go over to patreon.com/DCL podcast. You can find all the information there. Well, between now and our next show, it's summertime. I know a lot of people are actually getting out of their houses a little bit. We, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, all of us at the DCL Podcast, wish you and your family all the best. Be well out there, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.